I'm here with Brian Hardaswick. Brian Hardaswick is with a band called...
Currently in this moment.
He is.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. How dare you?
Very rude. Theatrical, heavy metal, rock and roll outfit, if you will.
To say I have been excited for this interview is an understatement. As a lot of you guys know, I used to be a touring audio engineer. What some of you guys don't know is that I quit about 12 years ago and got sober. And Brian was actually on that last tour with me. Brian has seen me at my worst, and we've kept in contact since then, and he's probably one of my closest friends from touring, and I just want to say thank you for being here.
Of course.
I know I don't normally start like this, but I just owe a lot to this man right here, and just thank you for everything. So I am honored to be here and just to be able to be a part of your world. It's been so cool to see you come from where you did to where you are now, and everything that you have been through, those trials, and I would love to talk about that a little bit coming up. But let me ask you this. How did you get into running sound?
It definitely started in middle school, like when we'd have plays and productions and like a musical every month. And I would always get asked to come. Like, it started off with like a couple speakers on a stick and like a lapel mic, and then it grew into like a gymnasium sound system, and then it grew into like freshman year of high school. Like, both of our auditoriums connected, and we did The Sound of Music, and it was like a 2-month production. So it started with just getting out of school early and like getting to go hang out and not have to do homework. Well, I had to do homework, it just got to be late. And progressed into musicals. The band would play, I'd come in, I'd help set up for like marching band or pep rallies or anything like audio in school. And I was just intrigued, but never had an intention of it like being a career.
So definitely not the jock.
No, not at all. I was in the band that would play at the football game.
Okay.
But no, there's never intentions of doing this as a career. I just enjoy doing it at that point.
Yeah.
Entertaining people, building things, set pieces, all of it was intriguing. And that's where it stemmed from. And then there's a large chunk of time where I didn't really do anything audio related. Playing in bands, even in my college era of time.
Okay.
And then it jumped back into it after that period. So
what inspired that transition from going into playing in bands to back to running sound? Was there an aha moment?
Not really. I had played in bands, and every time something would like start to get traction or start to do well, or a label would start to have a little bit of interest, somebody would quit or something, catastrophic would happen enough to where like that band would end. And you start another band, same thing happens, and it's repeatable cycle. And then I got an offer to go on the road, the band Pop Evil, and that was for a drum tech position. And at first I was like, I don't want to watch somebody else play drums, man.
Yeah.
I want to either be playing drums or doing something else in the scale, not just setting them up.
Yeah.
Because I still wanted to feel the excitement and the adrenaline of playing on stage. But I took it and went on the road and realized I could make better money. It was more secure. I got everywhere I was supposed to go in a vehicle that was going to work. People didn't quit as quickly as they did in my bands. Overall, it was security. But I was still so young and naive to all of it that I just still wanted to be in a band. So I was like, you know what? Why not go tech and meet people? And then as I progress, maybe I'll find a spot that opens up to play. Not realizing that whole time I was taking in things all around me, people putting out monitors, lighting, backdrops, pyro. Like, I was intrigued by all of it in the back of my brain, just never again with the intention of it becoming a career. It was just drum tech for a while, and then let's see if I can get a job as a drummer.
Yeah.
And that just kept progressing into more with that same band, Pop Evil, to doing monitors, to helping on stage, ordering their first couple of backdrops, doing our first tour with a couple of risers. And that's what really started to snowball, getting from just doing it in high school, going to college, getting back into it.
So Pop Evil to In This Moment, how'd that happen?
That was a transition 2017.
Okay.
Pop Evil had some time off. I was supposed to go out with the band Nothing More, and they had some things come up with the tour, so they ended up postponing that till a later time. The day that got postponed, a guy named Cyrus called from ITM and asked me to come out and do playback and stage manage. So that's how it started here, once again, doing a different job than I ended up doing. Did that for a year, and then they asked me about mixing, and I had some interest in it and had done it with Pop Evil for a couple of years. I was terrified. I was like, there's no way I can mix this band. There's a lot happening. Headset microphones, female singer, metal band, like so far out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But there's a gentleman named Frank Scambolone, front of house guy, does now Luke Bryan and everyone else under the sun. And he had been with the band for a little bit and gave me some pointers, so I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, do you think I should do this? Can I do this? And he was like, absolutely. He's like, either jump in and you're gonna sink or drown, or you're gonna swim. So I guess I swam, The water's always to here, but I swam, and here we are. But yeah, he gave me some pointers, and that's where the transition went from Pop Evil to ITM. ITM as a stage manager, playback tech, to doing front of house for the band.
So are you solely front of house now, or are you still wearing multiple hats? What do you do?
It's still multiple hats, so I do all the playback editing. That really happens in pre-pro when the band is like, we want to add a song in, we want to change an intro.
Yeah.
On the road, once we get out, it's pretty set. So that's a very much like pre-road gig. So it is my job. I don't consider it a job out here.
Yeah.
Drum tech, as you can see behind us. I do still help change heads, put some of the mics out. I'd say about 90% of it stays built. You guys got to see earlier today.
Yep.
A couple drums go up. So I'm technically the drum tech, but really this just rolls in and out of a truck.
Okay.
But I do oversee it. Production manager, probably the most crucial role other than the front of house. Advancing lighting, we got pyros, CO2, kabuki drops, backdrops, all the show logistics. New York City's coming up, which is a very in-depth process to make happen. So that's, I guess, the third hat, and then front of house.
So I think a lot of people who see this or see you at the position you are now and don't see the beginning process of how you got to there, or what happens in between the cool lights and fancy moment. Because really the 90-minute set you have there is a very short aspect to not just setting up for it, but even to the lifestyle it is. I know the drums are here, I'd love to get into that in a second, but I kind of want to touch on that. I think people really glamorize the touring lifestyle and think that it's all rock and roll and you get to do what you want, then you run into your sound, and then some people set it up and tear it down. In reality, there's a very different side of that coin. And there's a side to where I think some people struggle with it. Not just being on the road, but also coming back home from being on the road. I know you and I have had many conversations on that. Do you mind touching on that a little bit? Your experience with being on the road, with coming home with that.
Yeah. So it stems from, it can get really in depth, but like I've talked to you a lot about this. Other friends that have toured, people on the tour run right now have experienced it and have talked about it. And basically it comes down to like post-tour depression. So post meaning after tour, you're on tour, depression. Everybody should know what that means by now, I'd assume that's watching this. And the thing about it is...
Opposite of happy.
Yeah, opposite of happy. Even though you may act like you're happy. When you're on the road and you work with, say, 50 people a day on the average tour, right? Even a lot of those people you may never meet, like Merch World, I don't have much interaction with them except for in the mornings with stagehands, sending in people to help in and out. Or like some of the lighting team I may not see during the day. Like really like your core crew of people you communicate with, like bus drivers, truck drivers, there's tons of us out here. You don't see all those people every day, but you're building a relationship internally, like just seeing your face in passing, or just hearing like our L2's voice. Like I'm so used to that. Plus all the people that you're with every day, in the office, working with side by side, living in a tour bus with, sleeping 10 feet apart. So all of that, plus you're on tour, you're making people feel good, you're entertaining. All of that's building up and you're excited and the tour is great, you're making good money, you're saving money, whatever it may be, generally you're happy and it's going well. When you get home, you go from a sold out show tonight, for example, right? And then this time tomorrow, I'm at home, all this is gone, it's just severed off. We've also, severed off 50 different relationships that you've had, whether you realize it or not. So your energy is depleting. The excitement is depleting because there's not a crowd of people screaming. Your adrenaline's probably not rushing because you're like, oh my God, we have doors in an hour and we have 3 more bands to get on stage. All of that, all that adrenaline, all those endorphins are moving or depleting quickly, and you're going back to normal life now. When you're sitting at home watching Jeopardy, you're not like super amped up and stoked. I mean, unless you know all the answers. So that it turns into post-tour depression. Some people can go to the gym and work out. Some people will go to the bar and drink. Some people will take a vacation. There's no real right or wrong answers. Of course, the healthier options that make you feel better, the most obvious. But I struggled with it for a long time, but I didn't realize what it was. All I knew is is this anxiety? Is this the feeling of sadness? But I was just great yesterday. I'm like, all right, well, it has something to do with yesterday. Yesterday I was on tour. And a lot more people have talked about it, I think, post-pandemic than pre-pandemic. Because, some people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I'm tough, or I don't talk about that, or I
think everybody was forced to face it head on at that point, too, and not just go back on the road.
And I think sobriety's been something that's talked about more. LGBTQ stuff's talked a bunch about more. Post-tour depression. A lot of these things that were taboo, if you will, or seemed more taboo and with the new movement of what I think I would say of industry people coming in, a younger age, is that's a lot more publicized, those topics, including post-tour depression. And really understanding what it is helps so much, because you're like, oh yeah, yesterday I was having fun with these guys, and you can text them, be like, hey Nick, like it's great tour, hope all is well, did you make it home safe? And like now that relationship is still going, and you can touch base with people, you can check in, you can use social media. There's ways to handle it, but if you don't handle it and you let it build and you don't understand it and depict it like internally, it basically can eat you alive. And I think it has some people. And that's how I perceive it and I understand it. Me personally, like phone calls, going to the gym, and also putting myself around people as soon as I get home. Like my other half knows as soon as I get home from a tour, I'm gonna go do things. So we go play racquetball, go to basketball games, we go see family. I'm still like moving and shaking and waking up and doing something, and I like slowly work myself down to normal time at home. I don't just go home and sit on the couch and relax. I'd go crazy.
So you find it easier now to be able to go back on the road 100%. And then back home from that?
Yes.
What was that moment for you that realized, like, oh crap, that's what it is? Was there somebody that spoke into it, or was it just kind of a realization yourself had?
Honestly, it was the pandemic. And what I mean by that was all that time to sit and think and just depict my entire life and everything that it was, and what touring was, and what real life was, and like, what, you know, when I say real life, everything is real time, of course. But on tour, people that don't know, we kind of live in a bubble. Like, we're catered to, things are brought to us, people go out and get things from us for a store, and band members even more so for them, you know? So like, we're very catered to out here on the road. So when you get home, that stops. Like, we have to become more self-sufficient. And so I think that, trying to get back on your question, I get too far off track.
You're good. That's great.
You know, that's the best way to associate like what it's like being out here.
So you talk about this.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with the pandemic, I think there was I've talked about this before on this channel, but there seemed like there's a big shift that happened once the pandemic hit. There was a lot of old timers that hung up their hats and left a gap in there for a lot of new engineers, and some that maybe weren't so experienced, but they needed people and they went out there. What advice would you give to people who are newer, who are either in that role or want to be on that role, knowing what you know now and where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, and it happens so much more now than I've even noticed this year alone. When I say young, I'm saying like I'm seeing 21, 22, 23-year-olds, 18-year-olds like still in high school, reaching out to the audio school that I went to, and then my professor was contacting me and he's like, hey, I've got 2 really good students here that would be great on the live side of things. What can I help them do? So for me is go to every club you can, any local sound venue, club, hall, concert, whatever it may be, theater, and just like make friends, number one, like with the audio team and the production team. Just by that, you show you can network. Yes, network, number one. So by going to a club and saying, hey, my name is Brian, I want to do audio, I'm 23, I have no bills and pets, I can get in a vehicle and go right now. Like, that's a lot to throw at somebody, but they're like, copy that, that's exactly what we need. And then in this moment, I may come through that club and be like, man, I really need a drum tech, like just a young dude that can do this and this. And then, you know, you're the guy who's like, hey, actually this kid here last night would be perfect for that job. He lives right down the road. And more times than none, that's how people get in. From there, like, don't be afraid to fail. Like, it's never always going to go perfect the first time, no matter what you're doing. But some people are like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do a club or an arena.
Were you saying you failed in the past?
Oh yeah, every day. Still am. But I don't call them failures. Like they're learnable mistakes, if you will, you know. But like, don't be afraid to step up and do it, because everybody that we look up to, whether it's sports, athletes, actors, whatever, your parents, they've all failed in things in life, and you grow from it. So start, learn, grow, and get better, and keep doing it. But networking and learn your skills. Like YouTube. When I was growing up, I just understood like what YouTube was. We still had MySpace and things like that, right? Even like if I want to learn like tuning a drum, for example, or like how can I use a trigger as a gate? I'll go on YouTube and like watch different people use different applications. And like if I have a day off and I'm like, I can be learning today. I can be using my brain. I don't have to be physical, moving around. I can relax, but I can go on a computer and learn something. Like utilize the technology that you have at your fingertips. And 99% of people here have an iPhone or an Android. You can watch on there. There's no excuse not to learn. Would be my 2 biggest pieces for young individuals that want to do it. I
know part of being on tour is being flexible too, so I know you got to roll to something, so we're probably going to snap back at front of house, so this is where it goes. All right, we are...
Oh, are we good?
Do we have a moment? We had a moment.
We did. There's like a Lady in the Tramp.
We are here at front of house now. We are here at front of house, and I see a S6L.
You are correct.
Now, I'm assuming you didn't start on an S6L, specifically with this band. Didn't you start off on a profile?
I did, you're correct,
Walk me through your consoles you've used so far.
Started with the band, mixing them, I'll say 5 years ago now, and it started with the profile. At the time, that's what the show file was built for. That's what I inherited, that's what I used. A gentleman named Frank Scambolone was mixing them for a short period of time, and when I was kind of like teetering between doing it or not doing it, he was like my mentor at the time, if you will. He had a show file he set me up with, kind of did some ins and outs of his plugins. So I familiarized myself with that desk with this show, only because I was so new and that's what I was handed. My next console of choice, fast forward, was the Allen and Heath D-Live. I used that for the Red Rocks DVD. The last 3 tours that we did, festivals, loved it. Absolutely fantastic desk. Some other opportunities came about that wanted me to get on S6L, so I figured what better opportunity than to get on it, learn it, use it. As you probably remember, the profile was the go-to desk around the world. You're in Poland, you're in Bulgaria, you're in China, you're in middle of nowhere, Texas. They're gonna have a profile. Obviously now the S6L is the new profile. That desk being 17 plus years old is no longer probably serviced. They're falling apart. The ones that still work great, but it's like anything, after that long, it's no longer relevant. So knowing the desk that's in place of that anywhere around the world, and a console you can get anywhere around the world, was important to me. So I've used it. I love the effects. I love the capabilities of it. I love it being 96, being able to attach it right to virtual playback with Pro Tools. It's got an endless amount of benefits. And I've used a couple other consoles in between. The Digico stuff, the Quantum was great. I just found this right now at this point in time is the most beneficial to me personally. Yeah. So that's why I'm on the S6L.
I guess what I appreciate about you is that your ability and willingness to try new things and different things. So it's always great to watch you, especially on social media, just trying a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. Or it's so cool. You're not just so locked set in I'm only going to use this.
Of course, I think my biggest fear for anything in my life, even outside of this whole world, is like pigeonholing myself to something. Like I'm only going to visit this one state, or I'm only going to want this one car, or I want this one type of shingle on the roof of my house. Like I don't like to pigeonhole things. I want it to always be vast and open. Yeah. And even like when I'm home, you've seen in Nashville, I'll just take a console to a rehearsal facility, throw my tracks on, and just mix on it for a week, couple of weeks, couple of days, just to know it. Like we were talking earlier. There's so many different advantages of technology at our fingertips. If you don't know something, and to say like, I don't have the time or I don't have the resources, I don't know that that's entirely true, because you do. You just have to dig a little bit. But like at this point in time, you should be able to figure out or learn or use what you need for your job. Okay. Or the tools for your job.
Yeah, that's great. All right, walk me through the screens. Sure. You have one that's not being used, but
I do.
Take me through it.
Well, I turned that into a refrigerator, but we'll get to that. Console, so it's definitely in banks. You can custom set up the console however you want. I don't really use these screens a lot. I do everything right here. I just call it my main screen. Here, you can do anything on the console. Any channel can be any channel you want it to be. My whole show, if you're watching, I run off of Showtime that I created. It's got the boss's vocals, effects, all my VCAs, my outputs. Here, it is touchscreen, but I did actually drop and break this. I haven't told the audio company yet, but the mouse still works. I spend a lot of time just on my inputs, going through, whatever it is I need to maybe do some EQ to or watch. The screen that is, actually this one's just not plugged in because I don't need it. Obviously I have my master screen here, so no point in having that there. I use Smart over here for time alignment. I do phase traces, EQ and tune the PA with that. And then Pro Tools, MacBook, or Air Mac, virtual playback. We record every show, goes to a hard drive, goes to the studio into an archive. If they ever want to pull something up, the band ever wants to listen back, where was I in tune? Can we use this drum cut? Can we use a vocal take? That's what that's for. And as you can see real quick, all around you, there's several screens. He's got the Allen and Heath desk right here. D-Live. There's another D-Live hiding back over there. There's a Midas console. I think we got like 20 screens out here.
Me too.
Yeah. Lighting world back there. Another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screens. What else we got here?
How many inputs are you running?
Total ins to outs plus sends and returns with like triggers and lines. 53 lines. Okay. I believe total. Inputs, just actual physical noise to me, 43.
Okay.
Yeah, 43 inputs.
Okay.
Like on all my toms, I have the rolling triggers. I just use them as a gate, so it's sidechained to my channel. So he strikes the drum, it opens up. No cymbal bleed, no stick attack on the rim will open that. Physically has to hit the head for that trigger to open.
Okay.
So that takes up 4 lines.
Walk me through your waves.
Sure. I use a little bit. I really love the H delay. It's probably my favorite effects plugin, H delay. I think it sounds fantastic.
Can you show us?
Sure. So right up here. For the Boss, I have a short delay, and I also have a long delay. With her vocal, when you listen to the record, there's vocoders, there's pitch shift, there is lo-fi, and there's several delays on there. So we really try to create that live. So there's a lot of fabrication, if you will, to get that vocal tone live. So I use this for my delays. I really, really like the onboard reverbs that Avid has to offer. So I'm using a plate for my snare verb. I'm using a larger plate for my toms. And then I actually use the onboard, the vocal verb as well, the studio. It's a nice plate. She screams, she sings, she whispers. There's a ton of variance, in dynamics. And I find that this reverb specifically treats all 3 of those elements of dynamic really well. So I've just left that on there. I use a bunch of compressors, most do. I use on my drums, the BF76. I love that for the attack. Excuse my mouse here. I broke it right there.
I can tell.
Yeah. I use a CLA2A on her vocal. I really like the release of this on a vocal. I find it to be very natural. She screams and it will come back down, so she goes into a softer note. It doesn't, you don't hear like that jolt in dynamic. Yeah. It's very smooth to me. Again, very subjective opinion. C6, fantastic for her. Just a couple little points in the vocal I really pull down really heavy when she gets on those notes, but I really try to keep a very smooth platform of her tonality. And so you can see here where I have those scoops, and that's where it's going to pull down the heaviest when she gets onto it. PSE for the gate down here, if waves goes down, what do you do? So I basically have a vocal chain down here, 50-45 in the Shelford channel. I can switch to that if something happens and her vocal's not going to be that affected.
Master bus, are you running anything on that?
Just a C6. I run to Unity on my console with Matrix. And then, if I can get to it here, all I do, C6, and I just tickle it a little bit. And this is really, if I find I'm in a room where I need to push a little bit, I'll push here by dB or 2. Out of my console, I do run into a Neve Portico Master Bus 2 right here. And so that's where I'll really get some color. I have a red and blue silk. It's actually, if you'll notice, it is actually turned off right now. I had to get a new IEC cable. The one that I had severed where the cable and the plug meet. So that's why it's turned off at this moment in time. But run through that. I usually like the red silk. Most people know with Neve, red or blue.
Red or blue.
Hopefully someday I can get on the Yamaha Rivage console and just have silk on everything because it's awesome. With this band being heavier, drop tune, more distorted punch, I guess, if you will, I use the red silk on the left and right. I do tickle it into compression, 1 or 2 dB. Maybe if you guys can tonight during the show and get a little bit of footage of that, what's really driving from the band.
Absolutely.
But that's the front house world. I do keep a couple of these JBL reference monitors up here. Honestly, more so like when there's days people don't want to hear me making noise in the PA for an hour, I can just come out here and make noise, and it's pretty transparent between the two of what I'm doing. And it's nice also just to like really listen to a vocal or listen to a drum or a guitar riff, and I can come on and do it right now while there's people in the room and not bother everybody.
So let me ask you this. Are you doing any cool like parallel compression, any tricks you want to show us up your sleeve a little bit? If you want to show us?
There's not a ton of tricks. I do, the New York City drum crush, or, the parallel drum crush on a group, which is right over here, down to my groups. I keep drum crush at the end of my chain. Not a ton going on there. Again, I just use the onboard compressor.
But explain to people what that means.
Drum crush?
Yes.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm sending my kicks, my toms, and my gong drum all to a group, and I'm compressing the ever-living crap out of it. And so basically when you hear it, it sounds like it's being squeezed as much as possible. And when I push that output, it adds a glue. If you think about it, like, say you have a stack of pancakes and you pour syrup over it, that syrup's that nice thick glue that holds those pancakes together. It makes it a little bit sweeter. To me, that's what a drum crush does. That's actually a really good analogy.
That's a great analogy.
I just came up with that.
That was great.
I hope more people use that. Awesome. But that's what drum crush does is all my drums are big and very, very attack and reverb. They're big industrial sounding drums, but they need a little bit of glue to like hold it together. Yeah. And that's what that does. And if I take it in and out, you can definitely tell it goes from big punchy drums to big punchy glue drums. And everything on a drum kit I treat the same. Hi-hat should be as loud as your kick, as loud as your tom, as loud as your snare. Sometimes I find people mix with like lead kick drum syndrome or lead snare drum syndrome, which I've been guilty of. But really every drum should be audibly the same and like cohesive and tight. It shouldn't stand out more than the other. At least that's how I hear drums. Otherwise, everything goes into a group, and then all my groups go to my left and right. I do some EQ and compression in the groups, but just little bits of tickle and sparkle, if you will. Nothing really heavy. And I don't do a ton of tricks, man. Like, the band is great. It's a rock and roll band. I don't want to dig a hole too deep. A lot of my mentors and albums I listened to growing up were very like, make the kick drum sound like a kick drum. Yeah. Make that guitar sound like a rock guitar. Pan things and use stereo to your advantage. So I try to just keep that a simpler mindset when mixing.
Do you have an SE on this tour?
I don't. Just myself and our monitor engineer, Trip, are the only two on Team Audio.
So you are tuning yourself?
I do, and I do that with Smart.
Talk to me about your tuning process.
Sure.
Do you use a song? Do you use pink noise? What do you do?
I use pink noise. I find if you listen to a song, right, and you want it to sound like AC/DC Back in Black, I understand the idea of like you're trying to achieve that snare, or that snare is going to react to the PA in that room. That's how you want to tune. I get that. I learned with pink noise. I want to be able to send pink noise, close my eyes, listen to the room, and listen to what's swirling around, listen to what's bouncing around. Oh, 250's doing this. I know that 250 in every channel that I have 250 is going to do that, so I'll pull that out. Pink noise is 20 to 20K, the audio spectrum of human hearing, and then beyond some a little bit up at that 20K mark. So I'm getting every frequency present in the spectrum in the PA with pink noise. I'm not getting that with every song that I'm going to listen to. So in my opinion and what I've learned, I do with pink. I'm getting a much more accurate representation of what I'm going to get out of the room when we start doing a show. And I'll also use it to do a phase trace. Phase meaning in time, you want the PA and the subs to arrive at the same time. That's we're going to get the punchiest, tightest mix. So if I do a phase trace, I'm going to see my cycle where the PA is sitting, and if my subs are like this, I'm going to shift or delay till my subs and my PA are on top of each other. I know I'm at that microphone point, whether it's here, up in that balcony, or back here, are arriving at the same time. So that's how I tune. It can get much more in depth. I've seen SEs that can do incredible things. I just haven't had the time or the training to do so. Yeah. So,
one of the most iconic parts, I believe, in this moment is Maria's voice.
Sure.
She has a very distinct voice. She has a very, I wouldn't say harsh voice, but it can be.
Sure. She has a harsh scream, but it's a scream that works for her.
It's very dynamic too.
Totally,
it's all over the map with it. So could you walk me through your mic choice?
Sure.
Because you don't use a handheld, you use
it's a headset.
A headset for it. Why did you go to that? And then what are you using for her to be able to help create that iconic sound?
Sure. So I came into the Crown CM311A headsets, the Garth Brooks, the Britney Spears, Madonna, I believe at one point in time, or still, has used that headset microphone. The dynamics it can take, that little capsule right here being in front of her mouth, and she's doing so much dancing and choreo and etc. that she couldn't make a headset or a handheld work probably to what she wants.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my mic choice, it's what came with the tour, but our monitor engineer's been here years before I came in, and he was super happy with it. So the mic sounds great. So I take that, I actually do stereo vocal. So she comes in one channel, I split it left and right. So, she's coming in channel 1 in my patch bay. I can come up here, go to my inputs, and then, even like on my snare, I double patch a snare. So I have 2 channels of her vocal right here, left and right, and I pan her far left and far right.
Really?
Yep, and what that does is it gives me a bigger stereo image of her vocal. Because for this show, people are coming to hear the show and see what, listen to the vocals. So if I drive her down the middle, I kind of have to push the band further away. If I push her the furthest thing out, I can make her the biggest thing in the mix and then build the band around it. That's just my personal doing. That's not anything I picked up on. It just one day I tried it and I'm like, I like this. From there, I drive her into a lo-fi or a distortion plugin, and that's when you listen to the record, every verse has like a distorted lo-fi effect on it, which is what she likes. So I create that. So my next 2 channels, same stereo vocal, are the distortion. So like song starts, she's singing, I drive the distortion into the verse, I pull it back out. And instead of doing it through an aux, I like to just do it on the channel and combine it. Because again, it's still stereo vocal, still big. Yeah. So I just make that big vocal now sound a little.
Most people I think will do that on an aux where you do that.
And you can totally do that with this. You can do it with the Sans amp, you can do it with the Butch Vig plugin. I just like doing it this way because I have it right there.
Yeah.
And then from there, we definitely have some other effects. So I run into a pitch shift, +9, -9. And it's like, I take that from like the Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson days of like the Eventide.
Yeah.
It's got that cool robotic sense to it. So I do that with the pitch shift on board. I have 2 delays from the H delay like we had talked about, short delay and long. Short delay is always on. That to me adds just a little level of dynamic. You can barely hear it, but it just makes it sound a little bigger. And
What do you have that set at? Like how short are we talking here?
I mean, like, you really have to like put your ear out to listen to it short. Number-wise, I would have to look. I don't know.
No worries.
Let's see, out of curiosity. I mean, out of 100%, like 1. And then she loves the long delays. If you notice, after a lot of pretty much every word in a chorus, I'm throwing this up to like +6. And I control every delay. I throw every single one of them. And a vocal verb, just to keep it nice and wet, never sounding dry. I will take off all the effects in between songs. If there's ever a speech, or like we had an emergency the other night, it's always like being able to always kill that. So if she needs to speak to the crowd or something's going on, it's just natural, clean, loud, dry vocal.
Yeah.
So I always have like that kill switch right here.
Talk to me more about stereo imaging in relation to the band. I know you do with your vocals. What else do you?
A lot. So my guitars, we have 2 guitar players. They're both stereo. Bass is stereo, and vocal stereo, and then like our loops and synths and tracks, like keyboard stuff. And basically my whole idea is this is center, this is far left, far right. I have all this space to build a mix and place it. So like when you're listening to the show, when Randy's playing a lead, I kind of want you to look over that way a little bit and like see it. Or if, or Travis is playing bass and he hits a note, you're like, you look over that way. I very much so like to build the image of the mix and not just drive it all down the center. And I find you can get more out of your mix by moving it around, like my guitars need to be right here. I don't need all this low end in there. That's for my kick and my bass. So let those live over here further. Or, like this splash cymbal doesn't need any of this in here. It just needs to live up here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move it right there and EQ it out. And with that note, one thing I do, if you listen to everything independently, it sounds a little bit, you're like, really, that guitar, that's not how I would EQ it. But in the mix, it fits. Because
spacing it,
exactly, because I need it to sit right there. I don't need it here this big.
Yeah.
I have other things that need to live right there.
Yeah.
So I really try to like visually every day listen, and it changes every day. Like in a smaller room, I might bring it in a little bit to give you more of a driving force. Big amphitheater arena, I'm going to try and push it out more maybe. And again, it's per room. But that's how I perceive audio, and that's how I perceive where I place things and EQ them.
So let's talk drums a little bit and drum mics. You want to show us?
I can. It's a little dark up there, but we might be able to see some stuff.
Let's take a walk up there.
Sure.
Come with us.
We made it to drum world, and now we're blue.
Hearing drums. Talk to me about drums.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about mics. What are we doing here? First off, beautiful set, by the way.
Thank you. It's brand new. He just got a hookup from SJC Custom Drums. It is a birch Babinga kit? Something along those lines. It's made out of wood. I should know that, but I don't.
Especially as a drummer.
Yeah, right? The kit does sound fantastic. So the kit, microphones. I have 4 KSM 137s, China, ride, hi-hats, and bells. I like these little microphones that can take a high bit of noise, and they're very pretty sounding. They have a great little shimmer to them because I do use them for all brass overheads, underheads, bells, ride bells, as you can see. Up here in the very top, 414s for my main overheads for all of his crashes. Something interesting about him is he uses these, I think they're ozone crashes with the holes in them. They're not as shimmery as most drum kits cymbals are. So he's got like this main crash, which is nice shimmer to it. These are a bit more, in a very nice way, like a harsher sounding crash. So I find with the 414s, I'm able to EQ and still get some prettiness out of them, if you would. Takes a bit more work than just a normal set of very shimmery sounding crashes. On all the toms, we have the 98s with the gooseneck. I also am new to using these with him, but what I like is the ability to be able to move these back and forth instead of having to mess with the head as much.
Yeah.
Got those across the 4 toms. It's a little bit hard to see, but over here, snare drum. Got a Beta 57 on the bottom. You're more than welcome to go up there if you'd like. Snare top, We got a Neumann for the condenser, and then I have the SE V7 for my snare top. Gong drum over there, you can see that big guy, or the saucer, whatever you would like to refer to it as. Audix D6. And then right here, the kick drum, the magic one.
Yeah, that's it.
Both internally mounted. I have a 91 on a Kelly shoe on the bottom, and then the Telefunken M82 on the top, also on a Kelly shoe. I like them both inside. They're both in phase with each other. And for me, for this band, for metal, I get one of the biggest hollow cannon punch sounds out of it with those two mics internally. Some people like to have, a D112 or a D6 or a 52 out and like the 91 in.
Yeah.
It's subjective. It's preference.
Yeah.
It's absolutely what you want. It's whatever coloration you want. But I think one of the nicest compliments and the most repetitive compliments I get with the band is the drums. It's, how do you make the toms so punchy? The cymbals are so right there. The snare sounds like a shotgun. A lot of it's microphone and a lot of it's technique. And again, going back to front of house, not digging holes and over EQing and over processing so much that like this microphone and this sound can't just breathe. Yeah. And so I really try to pick the right mic, the right application, and the right processing out front to do what it needs to do.
I love how intentional you are with what you do and how you do it, even to the positioning that you're doing our stuff.
Yeah.
Like even with this. For me, I wouldn't point it that far, but for you were very intentional with where the stick's gonna hit,
Sure.
and not just where a stick would hit, but where his stick hits.
Exactly. Yeah. So good eye. So yes, a lot of people would do like that.
That's what I would have done.
So the reason I do that is he strikes and the tip of his stick hits right here. So if I have that right there, just that ting of the stick hitting that bell is not the sound that we want. It almost hurts your ear. Back here, I get more of a hollow doom from that, and it's just like a count in off that ride, which sounds more like the record, which he prefers in his ears.
Now, explain to people about the gate.
Sure.
What's the point of that, and why do you do this?
Yeah, so on each drum, you can see, I promise they come off. Just a roll-in trigger, sensitivity pad, cable. So what do? I just put it on each drum, tighten it. The reason I have that is it's a gate. So, if he's hitting this china and this and all this stuff right here, this microphone is picking all that up. Well, its job's not to pick that up. Its job is to pick up just this floor tom. Well, how do I get it to do that? You can set the gate on the console, but it's not 110% accurate. It could have little peaks, and if that opens up when he's riding on this, it doesn't sound pleasing. I sidechain this trigger to that microphone, so when this drum is hit, that sensitivity is recognized and opens up this microphone and allows that sound to come through only when that drum is struck. So he can hit all these cymbals as hard as he possibly can, and none of these microphones are gonna pick it up on the toms. It's only gonna pick up the tom when that drum is struck.
So in essence, when this is hit, that mic is muted until this is hit.
Yes.
Once it feels the vibration, it hears the mic.
Sure. Right now,
And
if
then
I
cuts
go,
off.
exactly, if I go open up that channel and turn the gain all the way up when we're talking, when I turn the gate off, you would hear us talking. It'd probably feed back. Right now, you would not hear anything because there's nothing to activate that microphone.
Now-
Or that trigger.
Gate the kick?
Nope. I use the gate on the console because it's loose enough for him where I don't want it super tight. He has some dynamic in his playing,
Yeah.
and the one out front on the desk works fantastic.
Yeah.
Same on the snare. Some people will gate their snare. For him, he's such a hard hitter, and his ghost notes are very consistent, that the gate I have set out there is perfect for him. I don't have any issues with bleed on that. So it's really the toms. And I could probably dig a bit more into it and get him even more sensitive, but this just works so well. No need to.
Now, guitars and bass.
Yes.
Direct?
Direct, Kemper's.
Okay.
Yes. Tom, our guitar tech, has a fantastic ear, so he's built all of our guitar tones. For bass, we do run it through a dark glass and a Tech 21 Sans amp up here. It doesn't get super affected, just a little bit of crunch, and then I affect it pretty heavy out front on that main screen that I have, my Sans amp for bass. But yeah, just left and right guitar, left and right guitar, right, 2 lines of bass, rock and roll.
Cool.
And we do have a playback world hidden back there, which are like the keys, the
Can we
stems.
see playback roll?
Yeah, we can make our way over there.
Okay.
Might have to do another one of your little fast loops.
Yep.
Right here is monitor world. Our monitor engineer Trip is a very proud Floridian, so go Gators. Up here's our splitter. So basically right here, let me show you this, RAM latches. So everything from the stage comes into this box and gets split 2 ways. One way to me, front of house, everything is red. To Trip, everything is brown, monitors. So kick drum comes in once, goes out twice, and that's for all of our inputs, all 43 live inputs. And like when I send things back, like my talkbacks and triggers, it all goes into here. This is the analog brain.
Walk me through this.
Wireless, all the band, everybody's on in-ear monitors, and her headset is wired, but to a wireless pack. So PSM 1000s for the band, and then her Shure units up at the top for her headset. In her quick change, we also always have a handheld that she can pick up at any time and turn on and sing into, that is already patched to her same channels. So if her headset were to fall or something happens, she can grab that, or her assistant will grab it, and she'll sing, and it'll still go through all the same processing we already have.
That's smart.
Coming over here, wireless workbench for all the wireless.
Okay, now, break down for the viewers, what is Playback World?
Sure, so Playback World.
Why is it important?
Yes, for many reasons. So Playback is it's a world where there's usually a redundant computer system, A and B, like we have here. And most bands play to a click track. It's a timing in their ears. And it's just how you know when the song is starting, keeps you on track. Some bands do, some don't. It's really just the preference of the musician. And also, a lot of this is programming, like we have CO2 that shoots off. That's all ran through these computers. It's time code. Basically, humans can have human error. Computers can also have computer error. But you can rely on the computers a lot to take responsibility off of human. So like our LD has enough going on with our lighting show that I can take all of our video content, all of our CO2, and program it into these computers. So when we hit the space bar, he doesn't have to worry about shooting off the CO2. It's perfect in time with that click track the band's listening to. You can do video, you can do pyro, you can do automation. Obviously, the more you do, it involves more people, more safety precautions. But you can run a ton of, or all of your production off of a playback rig. We also don't have enough bunk space for a keyboard player. And some of the songs have little synthy keys and stuff. So I can basically put instruments in these computers, play it back to sound like the song without having to have, a keyboard player and a synth player. That's just, we don't have the space. And so when we fire this, the band will hear the start of the show, the click track, the lights will do what they're supposed to do, production will do what it's supposed to do, and it runs off of this. I've got it set up, if A goes down, B keeps running. So it's a completely redundant system. If they both stop, the show will still run, the band still plays. It's not like everything is fake and on a computer. They just would restart the computer so they can hear the click track. And really all that is when you look at how big a stage is, like there's no way for the drummer to hear the guitar player or, to know, hear the counting of the song. So it really just keeps them all in sync playing a song. Everything she's singing is live, her screams are live. All the bands, like the backup vocals, we use the V7s from SE. All those stage left, stage right, that's all processed through front of house. So really this just runs production and things in the show that humans don't have the time to do. And it's a very popular system. I've seen it more than none, and it can be used in 100 different ways.
I think surprisingly more bands than not actually use playback, especially
Absolutely.
nowadays.
Yeah.
It's very hard to emulate everything you hear in the studio live.
Very true. And it does, I will say, I think you agree, it does get misconstrued that people see this and they're like, oh, the band's not playing.
Yeah.
The band is 100% playing.
Absolutely.
Again, you can come up to our show tonight, kill the playback, the whole system, and nothing's changing,
It's just a little sprinkling and icing on the...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And really, again, if this stops, Jamie can fire CO2 off. He just has to manually do it. But why do that? Why take that stress when it can be on a computer? But yes, it's not the whole band. It's not everything is fake. It's not, if this stops, the band's mouths stop moving. They're a real rock band.
Yeah.
And it's 2 interfaces. It's an audio switcher. The way it switches is by tone. This top green line is a switcher tone right up here. So basically, show's running right now. You can see that both the computers are going. Something happens. You hear that click. The B's running because it's got the same tone. So it's all it is just running off of signal. That's Playback World, and they're all pretty much the same.
Do we need to reset now, or is it automatically reset?
It automatically resets.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep, and then if I hit it twice, it'll go to the next song. So for the most part, pretty dummy proof.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this.
Sure.
Not really ask, but I know a lot of people really want to see backstage and what is it when I go backstage. Maybe we show them backstage real fast and how maybe uncool that is. In reality, everything is set for them out there.
100%. And people, like, I think also misconstrue that, like, we just show up and all this is done. Like, we're just like, cool, let's hang out and party. I mean, we got here at 7 o'clock in the morning. I spent an hour figuring out parking with the production manager. And we have, 3 trucks and 6 buses. Coordinating that. By the time we do that, then we got to load in. So we have to do a labor call. And you have to make sure, like, for your union, you have to have only loaders, only pushers, only fork operators. You have to have union heads. Only certain people can run, like, spotlights. So there's a lot more to it than just like, let's go party backstage. So this really is like for the fans that are paying to see a show. It's just we do it every day versus like, you go to Vegas for a weekend and you sit down and see a show. We're doing that show you're seeing. We're just building it every single day in a different room with different logistics and every day is different people to build that, minus our core crew. So like, I think that's a lot for people to take in. Who's awesome today might not be awesome tomorrow. Who knows? Hey, I mean, I can build your rig because I carry one on tour, may not be able to tomorrow. So there's so many variances in like ego and personality and people, just people every day. But I'll show you backstage.
Let's go backstage.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, wearing a few different hats. One of the other hats I wear is production manager, which spends a lot of time in the office. So backstage, everybody will always have signs up, basically just labeling. There's so many rooms and people that you need to know what's where. So right here, this production office, if you want to take a look. People in here talking. We got a giant Buc-ee's, computers, all that good stuff. That's where this happens. And you come out this way. Normally we have like a real desk. It's not a catering room, but today it's catering. Backstage is always labeled with arrows. It's pretty bland. This venue's cool. It's got all the different venues, sellout shows and current shows they've had here because it is new. Coming up this way, this is Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Just more dressing rooms, everything again labeled. I do put up a ton of day sheets every day. This basically from the minute we get here at 8 a.m. to the minute we're going to leave at 2 a.m. Anyone in the staff can come look at this and everyone's on the same page. I advance this a month before we get here, but I'd probably put, I think, 20 up a day everywhere in the venue, even the bathrooms.
So I know tomorrow you're in Greensboro Coliseum.
And if you can't find me, you're like, oh no, what time does New Year's Day go on? 6:15. And it's the same everywhere. Same every day too. Wardrobe, more dressing rooms, more gear. Then once you get back to this point, storage is key, especially on a tour like this where there is so much. This is like a theater tour, right? So we have hampers, set cards, rolling pieces. Ice Nine Kills has actors that are part of their show. So storage, like, finding a place where I can put ego risers plus stairs plus carpets. It doesn't look like a lot, but that's 8 different pieces that we can store. So you really have to be mindful of space and storage. We're pretty fortunate today to have a venue that's got a loading dock and a dock like this for storage. We can keep lighting skids, guitar vaults, lids, cases, backline gear. Sometimes you get to venues where you don't have that and you have to put everything back in like your truck, and then your truck has to go away for 2 miles and then you need to come back. So it's so much more than just putting on a show. There's so much backstage of like logistics. Are there enough dressing rooms? Are there showers? Where's merch going to load in from? Is there a way to get to the stage? How are we going to walk in the artist? Can the artist come in through the back doors or security that can walk her in? So yes, to answer your initial question, there's no partying backstage.
No.
At least not here. Fun thing, loading dock. What is that? People may not know exactly what it looks like. A dock that you can
load.
back. When you have semi trucks, the biggest godsend is when you can put a truck on a dock. It's just a flat push. It saves so much time. When you have 4, 3, or 10, or 12 of these trucks, and you have to ramp down, fork up, bring it in, fork it up on stage, it costs so much time. So having a loading dock saves an extreme amount of time on the in. And then again, just being able to continue to store things and have space for the on and off. And that's the other thing is when each band is done, we have 10 minutes to get all that off stage. And if you don't have this space to put it, then you have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Is it going to a parking lot? Is it going to go outside the front doors? Where does it all go? And that's when we have stage managers, we have set carps, everybody has a production manager. So it's not just me, it's a whole team of people figuring out, all right, once we're in, now we have to get out in reverse order, even faster.
Yeah.
So again, backstage, not a
All
party
for the
area.
out.
Yeah, and these are all meetings we have throughout the day. We have a pre-show meeting, we have a pre-stage meeting. Our set card meets with the stagehands because we have confetti cannons, we have pyro, we have a balloon toss, we have kabuki drops. So it's our party, but it's not a party. Sometimes you have a barber set up, getting a haircut. That's our set card forest.
And how do you guys get here every time?
We get here via tour bus. Let's see if I can take you guys out this way. What's up? In our show, we do CO2, which we were talking about playback, and in the production world, which is the gas that shoots up in the air. So, like venues like this that have so many artists, they just keep it on. They just keep it on hand. So, like for my show, I need 14 tanks every day. So generally, they have
14 tanks.
Yeah. So we have 14 for just a 1 hour set.
Explain what the cryo is.
Cryo is there's two different. So if you look at this tank, this is the easiest way, right here. See where it says siphon tube? So if you look right there, basically that means there's a tube that goes down to the bottom of that tank. It draws it out and it pressurizes it when it hits our jet to create the white burst. It just evaporates. It's a gag. It's a cool effect. But if you're doing confetti, you do non-siphon because what you just want the high pressured air to shoot the paper out. If it draws and if it draws from the bottom, it's going to clog up your confetti machine, create a lump of paper, and it won't shoot out. So you use siphon tubes for the jets, non-siphon for confetti and streamers. You can use both, but that's the way to do it. Again, this venue has so many DJs and acts that they just keep it on hand. So
Smart.
They just pull from ours, they'll replenish it in a couple of days.
Smart.
But not every venue does that.
Smart.
We get here by tour bus normally.
I think another thing that's very important for people to know too is that merchandise and the importance of merchandise on a tour.
That's what makes the tour happen.
Correct. Explain that.
I mean, so on tour, there's so much money. The internet, right? Internet killed rock and roll, people say. So like buying a CD and the music, the money going to the artist, it's a whole different world. Now it's streams and Spotify and all these things. A lot of it beyond my knowledge. But merchandise sold on the road is what keeps like the show happening. Every t-shirt, every CD, every trinket, every pin, every button, every whatever you buy, a lot of that goes to the artist and to like the show on the road to pay paychecks, to pay trucking, to pay busing, to pay pyro, whatever it may be. So that's why every merch display is getting bigger and bigger. That's what's funding the road. Like a large chunk of money on the tour comes from merchandise.
So guys, listen to me very closely. If you want to support your artist, buy merchandise at the show. Seriously, this is the biggest supporter of these guys at End of the Band.
Absolutely, merchandise, man. And so we have two buses, two trailers. Both of the trailers look like this. Merch is always in most cases, very well categorized. T-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, soft goods, albums, and then the other trailer's got like vinyl records, older albums. We have a fantastic merch team. We actually have two people. Our merch is so busy. We have two full-time traveling merch sellers on this tour.
Wow, you guys!
And they're both named Rachel. We have a golf cart backstage. Oh, I mean, that's how we get around back here always. Shout out to Coca-Cola. And then, this is getting out towards the street. We got a couple buses over here. We've got 3 or 4 more buses parked over there. Then there's another 2 buses over on that side.
So, come around to this side for me. These buses fit up to 10 people, 12?
12. Beat the Street can do like 14 to 16.
So these are broken up into different lounges. There's a front lounge and a back lounge and or a sleeping cabin back there.
Yeah.
Or bunks in the middle. So these guys are traveling around literally in a bus with some lounges on it, which is really your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people have custom buses where they're just be like a husband and a wife or a couple or a single person and a dog, and the whole thing can be a custom apartment. You can have as many pop-outs or slide-outs, which means the side comes out as you want. It's limitless.
How many buses for this tour?
This one is 6.
Okay.
I've like Slipknot, what for example was like 14 buses and 16 trucks. Taylor Swift is 70 trucks or whatever it is. So, every fleet is different, and you can customize it. Like we needed 3 trucks. Some people need 6. Some can do it with 1. Some bands, like the first band, only have a trailer on their back of their bus because they only have a little bit of gear. So you can really size to what you need.
And what bunk is yours?
I like the middle because the bottom I feel like I'm too close to the ground, and the top I feel too high up. I'm going to roll out. So in the middle I feel like balanced.
So one thing I want to say too is that touring is very expensive. Fuel for this is expensive, drivers are expensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot to go this, and you don't just typically jump on tour and go into a tour bus. A lot of people cut their teeth in a van for it, and it takes a while to get to this point.
Yeah.
So you think that these bands are making so much money doing this. There's a ton of expenses that go into not
absolutely.
just playing the show, but the tech people for it, the bus drivers for it, the truck drivers for it. And how many people for this crew?
So this tour is 4 bands, and there's a total of I think 71 people for 4 bands. That's from band members all the way to drivers, catering, assistants, techs, crew, everything. And then on top of that, just to do this venue, security team, general manager's team, bar backs, bartenders, security door, like it's 100-some people to put on a show. Yeah. And they all have to get paid. Nobody's doing it for free.
And do you want to tell people the most important rule on the tour bus?
Oh, always number 1, never number 2.
Never number 2 in the bus.
And if you know what that does not mean, you'll probably never be on tour. So.
And then also feet forward.
Oh yeah. In a tour bus, you walk down. I think this is what you're getting at. Shoes?
No, sleeping foot forward.
Oh yes, you always sleep foot forward, but also you never leave your shoes in the hallway.
Yes.
And you always carry foot spray. Always.
Yes.
Always. I actually change my shoes halfway through the day.
Really?
I carry 2 of the same pair, and I swap them out halfway through the day.
Really?
It's good for your knees and your back, and my feet sweat a lot, so I just swap them out, and it's better for everybody else in there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting lifestyle.
It is.
To be doing this, and I want to give people a very realistic expectation of what it is like to tour. Concerts are on weekends, holidays, during really anything important. There's a lot of major life events that you really can't be a part of because you're on the road.
Your birthdays, weddings, funerals.
Is that
bar
hard
mitzvahs? For you? It is. It definitely is. Me personally, I have a great relationship with my other half at home, with my family, and now we have FaceTime. We have, the ability to cheaper flights, quick connections. But you do miss events, and you really have to pick and choose. But also, you get to a point in your life where that has to be more important than the road. Like if your best friend in the world's getting married, and you're like, I have this or a big show coming up. The show is important, but that wedding is also important with your best friend, and you spent 30 years of your life with that person. And so you really have to pick and choose. And as I get older, like life moments are more important than show moments. And everyone's different. But I've missed a lot of things at a younger age that I refuse to miss now at an older age.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's moments when you can't do that. You're like, hey, we're going to Paris. Like, we have to leave tomorrow. Okay, there's nothing I can do about that. But if there's workarounds, and I always try to have a backup engineer that can come in and fill in for me, which I've had to use. I've had to leave this tour a couple times, and I always have a guy that can come in and cover for me, which is huge. It's important to have that for many reasons. But knowing that you never want to burn a bridge or put your artist in a bad place. So them always knowing, oh, Brian can't make it, so-and-so can come in, I can still do the show. Yeah. So I've always been very diligent about having a backup plan.
Yeah. So I've noticed ever since COVID, there was an influx of, we talked about this earlier, of a lot of new engineers. Old engineers hung up their hats, a lot of new young gunners out there. What advice would you give to them wanting to be here, getting on a bus like this, running sounds, or maybe advice you give to yourself starting off?
I think I like the question of like younger me giving older me advice. It would definitely just be every goal and idea that you have is and will be obtained and achieved. The way you go about it is just honesty, like having integrity and respecting people, which I've always tried to follow coming from a small town. Like just treat people well, and everything that anyone's ever achieved that you look up to, sports, athletes, mentors, movie stars, family, whatever, all did it because they believed in it. That's all it is. And to younger people coming in, be prepared to hear no, be prepared to hear it's not going to happen, be prepared to hear find a different job. And also be prepared to cut your teeth and grind, But if you can get past that and just know like you're cut out to do it, or this is your passion, it will happen. It will fall into place. That's a very real, especially in this industry, people get filtered out very quickly. If you're meant to be here and you have a skill, the right person at the right time will see it. And that happens to everybody. And whether it be when you're 16 or 63 or 45 or whatever, at that point in time, that's what you really want to do.
Yeah.
It's totally obtainable in this industry.
Yeah. So how much of your job, specifically running sound, involves on tour, involves actually running sound?
I mean, like 2 hours out of the entire day.
What would you say is probably follows up with that, or more? Would you say the relationships are more or less important than that?
Production managing production managing is 24/7. It starts with parking, then it's load-in, then it's trucks, then it's docks, then it's where can pyro go? Is the lighting right? Where's the kabuki truss going to hang? That's an all-day thing. I get about an hour a day to tune and time align the PA, and I'll take an hour and a half, whatever the show is, to mix. Now, if I'm not production managing a tour and I'm just doing front of house, the last run I was on, I spent more time out at front of house, so I had the time to do so. So I can tinker a bit more. I can do some more stuff on my effects, those studio monitors, Pro Tools, because I have the time. Here, I only have so much time allotted per, every hour for each job.
Yeah. So what does the future hold for Brian? What's your? I'm sure you've achieved a lot of your goals.
I have been very fortunate. I still have a lot to do. I have some key artists that I would love to work with someday.
And you willing to share?
I mean, Deftones is another, for sure. Deftones, Seven Dust would be another favorite one.
Okay.
I would really like to get in to do some Broadway, whether it be like New York Broadway, because this is already theater. It's just rock and roll theater. And I love the idea of residency, like stay put, same thing, same spot, same location. So I'd love to do some residencies. But I have some cool stuff on the table for next year that I'm very excited about.
All right.
International things, which are very exciting. But yeah, keep touring, keep learning.
Okay.
I hope to do this for a long time.
Okay. And if people want to follow you and follow your career, where can they follow you?
Any bathroom stall in America. No, everything is just, it's all social media. It's just at Brian Hardaswick.
Okay.
First name, last name, lowercase, all one word.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much
for
taking
the
time. Really, it was so good to see you, man.
Thank you.
Really, seriously.
Appreciate it. And thank you guys. Appreciate it.